Here we go.
This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's
your live.
Welcome to the Word on Wealth. I'm so glad to have you along today. I just got to calm this down here. Wow. Electronics all over the place here. Good to have you along today on the Word on Wealth. Today is Trust Day. So we're going to talk about estate planning all day long. That is right to the top of the hour. If you have questions for me, I'd be happy to take your call. 888-344-1170. That's 888-344-1170 right here on this station. And we're happy to take your calls on the air and answer them.
Do you remember when you used to do the show, Gary, with one Martin Schneider, and we used to call it Trusting Tuesday?
Trusting Tuesday. Yeah, that's true. That's so funny. That's right. Trusting Tuesday. That was fun. Yeah, Marty and I did that show for 15 years, man. And now Here I is.
How we were young.
That's a long time ago. Yeah. So let's see, 15 years ago, I would have had one grandchild. That's right. Crazy. So talking about, when people want to know how Gary ticks, I think I usually, okay, so let's say, for example, so I do these seminars, and I used to do a lot more than I do now. The pandemic really kind of put a damper on things, and now we're kind of picking it back up. But I would do seminars all over the state of California. And then during the pandemic, we started doing it online. Well, in a typical seminar, when I'm doing a presentation regarding estate planning or legal work or ethics or whatever, they always introduce and they say, okay, Gary, he's admitted, he's an attorney, admitted since 1988, and is admitted to practice in California and Colorado and federal courts and U.S. tax court and all these different things. And he was the president of this, not the other, because I've done a lot of stuff, but you would expect that of a person that's been in practice for 30 plus years. And then they would say, oh, wow, that's really neat. And he has his own radio show and he has a podcast and all these fun things that I've been doing to just kind of keep myself up to speed and share the information that I think needs to be shared. And then when they were all done, I'd say, okay, now I get to give you what I care about. And I would just put up a picture of me, my wife, Cheryl, and our family. So it'd be our 4 kids, their spouses, and our grandkids. And I'd say that picture behind me represents all I really care about. And that is what drives me to get up and exercise, to eat right, to work hard, to make good money, to hire good employees, to be kind to people, to, make the sacrifice I need to. And that's what's important to me. So I've always basically believed that the most important thing in our lives is our relationships with people. And I firmly believe that, and I will go to my grave believing that you have a relationship with everybody. You have a relationship with a spouse, with a child, with a sibling, with a parent, with your boss, with your coworkers, and these relationships really develop you as a person and make your world. And it can either be good or bad or anywhere in between. But it's these relationships and your interactions with people that really make your life. So if you don't like somebody, figure out how to get out of that situation. Don't be mean to people and angry. My secretary Jennifer and I don't mean to pontificate, but my secretary Jennifer and I were just talking about this right before the show. It's interesting how we can have, in my practice, we can have literally thousands of clients that love us, that really like the work that we've done. And some of it has been very difficult. Some of it has been, pretty routine for us. But most of our clients are super happy with what we do. I mean, our motto at this firm is we provide essential legal services simply, affordably. Nothing lavish, nothing crazy, just things that people really need. My son says that my law practice, GQ Law, is it's a real people's law firm, that we represent real people and their interests. And I've always been really proud of that. My son saying that, because, wow, Dad, you really do some good things. So it's all about relationships, and especially when you get into the estate planning arena, because mom and dad tend to help hold their children's relationships together. And eventually mom and dad are going to die. And then what's left are the siblings, right? The children. And what we really try to do is make it so that before mom and dad die, their paperwork is in order so that after they die, it's not as difficult or complicated or messy to transfer assets from parents to children. Because if it's not done right, then there's more stress and there's more difficulty and more challenge that didn't need to be there. After your parents die, believe me, it's not easy. I don't care whether you hated them or whether you love them more than life. When you lose your parents, there's a change in your world because the parents aren't there anymore. First of all, it puts you as the next in line to die, quite frankly. That was kind of one of my perceptions, but it also makes it so that you're not only are you now the senior or the older generation, the next generation, basically the oldest generation in your family, potentially. It means that you now have your siblings and your cousins and the people in your family that you need to, in my opinion, maintain relationships with, because they are going to be the people that you have something to do with for the rest of your life. You will know your brothers and sisters longer than you knew your own parents. You'll have a relationship with your brothers and sisters longer than you've had, than you'll have with your spouse, probably by 20 years. So maintaining those relationships in some form or another, to me, is really critical. And I absolutely hate it when people fight and they go get an attorney, and the attorney is a complete just psychopath as far as being angry and trying to stir the pot and get people upset. I really want to get it so that we can transfer the property to the kids, just like mom and dad wanted, and do the best we can to minimize damage. That doesn't always happen, but we're trying to minimize damage because I want those relationships to endure, because it's going to be for the rest of your life. So I think with the stuff that we're going to talk about today, I really have some kind of helps for successor trustees if it's going to be their job. I have some things I want to talk about that would help a beneficiary appreciate the administration process after your parents pass away, like how to transfer property from the decedent to the surviving beneficiaries. And those are the things that we want to talk about on the show today. If you have questions from me directly off air, you can call my office directly, and that is GQ Law. So the number is 855-500-TRUST. 855-500-TRUST. And you can get an appointment with me. We can talk about it, figure out, what you need to know, what you want to know about distributing assets. If you're the trustee or if you're a beneficiary, we can talk about whether things are going like they're supposed to. And of course, also we do all the estate planning, and we can take care of all that for you. What we got coming up next is I want to finish a little bit of stuff that we were talking about yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about conservatorship and why that happens, but I also want to get some case of the week out there. So we'll announce that after the break, and we'll have some case of the week coming up here on the Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christians just don't understand that the money they save for retirement usually helps fund the abortion industry and other liberal anti-family causes. But did you know that with just a few minutes of your time, we can screen and clean your investments at no cost to you? It's absolutely complimentary. Just go to the website right now, download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing. It's free as well. You deserve to know the truth as the investor. Then the choice is yours. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can line up your investments and life savings with your beliefs. We are fiduciary investment advisors. You can feel good about investing with confidence. So learn more now. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com or call me at 931-RETIRED. Your free book is waiting for you. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com and be sure that you listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Car.
So Gary, we've talked a long time about estate administration. So what is that, and why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. So have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
Who will you the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecos and the Pecos Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of the Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on the Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecos has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecos Group, from single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings. Ken Pecos is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecos.com. That's Ken Pecos, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
Dennis.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
It's now time for the Gary Quackenbush GQ Law Word on Wealth Case of the Week.
All right. Thank you, Noah. Yeah, this is fun. So we had, this works. This is really a lot of things. This is kind of what's happening right now in the world. So it's a great example, actual case. So we have 4 adult children. The son is the successor trustee. When mom, dad had passed away years before, then mom passed away. She just got super old, and son decided that he didn't want to put mom's house on the market. Now, this happens regularly because mom's old, the house is old, house is dated, mom's been in there for a long time. Typically, as our parents get older, their vision is not as acute, so they can't see that there's cobwebs and there's dirt and whatever. So houses tend to get a little messy. And so the son, like a lot of people, they said, oh my gosh, I don't want anybody in this house because this is my mom's house and it's really kind of embarrassing. So he decided that he would clear out the house, which you have to do anyway. And instead of just sprucing it up, like putting in some cheap, not worn out to the threads carpeting and repainting, he decided he would spend $80,000 on updates. Updated the kitchen, did a decent job, updated some of the bathrooms, and then recarpeted, did all this stuff. So spent over $80,000. This was several years ago when $80,000 was even more than today. So $80,000 in upgrades. Question: Where did he get the money? Answer, he got the money from the trust that mom left that he is the successor trustee over. So question number 2, is taking $80,000 out of a trust an appropriate use of money when it's used to upgrade the property? Okay, so here's where the problem comes in. The son didn't want to overspend, and so he decided he would do a lot of the work on his own. So we had a contractor working with him for part of it, and part of it he did on his own. Nights and weekends, working super hard. A year and a half after mom passed away, $80,000 later, the house dropped in price over $100,000. Okay, now we've seen that happen. We just saw that happen this year in San Diego. Price dropped over $100,000, provable. We could go back and we can look at the history of the comp of that house when mom died, and we can look at comp of the house a year and a half later, and it had dropped fully, easily. We could demonstrate it was over $100,000 drop, and he put $80,000 into it. Question, how much did he cost the estate? How much did he lose by not doing his job properly? And you might think, well, Gary, it's $80,000 of improvements and upgrades and $100,000 drop in value. He lost $180,000. Okay. Now I think you would be probably pretty close. However, I think you could go, he would argue, or his attorney basically would argue, the upgrades were worth it. It made the house worth more money, or part of it had to be done, but I think he could argue a little bit of reasonableness, like, well, at least $20,000 of those up, of the monies were to spruce it up. But I think the 180,000 is probably a decent number, and that's what we were going after. Now, what happens is, whose fault is it that the market fell apart and lost the value of the house of $100,000? Who takes that loss? Well, if it could be established that the successor trustee acted unreasonably because he took a year and a half to do upgrades, you could show that they were not necessary, that he was trying to spruce it up and make it fancier and try to, recoup money because he because he read on the internet that if you put $50,000 into the kitchen, you're going to get that back for sure. And if you put $20,000 in the bathroom, you're going to get back for sure. Okay, whatever. But understand, the successor trustee's job is not to make money. It's not to try to flip the house with the money in the estate. The job is to distribute the property in that trust to get it to the beneficiaries. Okay. Now, if all the beneficiaries got, sat down and they agreed and they said, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. How's it going? Yep, we're okay. Keep going, 80,000, but they weren't. The 3 other siblings were saying, what are you doing? This does not need to be done. You need to sell the house. You need to get moving. You're spending our inheritance. So he was on notice that he was kind of at this risk. If the price had gone up, nobody would have said anything. However, the price went down, and that just happens. So the loss of money, once it was established, how much money was his fault? Part of it is going to be, when did the market fall apart? Well, if he got it done within a reasonable period of time, everybody wanted him to sell the property. And if he'd sold it within 6 months, it would have not dropped in value at all. But he waited until the market fell apart. He could be charged with a lot of that decrease, maybe not all of it. But either way, even if you could only say that he was responsible for half, that's $90,000. And where does the $90,000 come from? It comes out of his share. That's the sad part. So you do the calculation, figure out how much money everybody gets, and $90,000 of his share needs to be paid out to his remaining 3 siblings. So they each get 30 grand for that loss. So it's just the trustee's job. I want you to understand, the trustee's job is to reduce risk of loss. The trustee's job, if they don't do it right, the penalty is that the trustee must make the trust whole. So in this case, it would take up to $180,000 to make the trust whole. Okay. Now, I understand that sometimes they have no control, like they had to fix it up. There's a professional. It'd be different if a professional, a good, responsible professional came in and said, hey, this house will not sell like this. It's going to be on the market too long because it's just a mess. We need to clean it out. We need to put in some carpeting that looks nice. and we need to repaint. Everything else can be just scrubbed. So let's scrub it, make it look clean and presentable. And that's going to cost you $15,000. That was the bottom line. It probably would have cost, between $10,000 and $15,000. And back when all this happened, that's when there were lots of realtors that would say, if you just let me do it, I'll have my team come in, we'll spruce it up legally, legitimately, just to make it look better and smell better. And I will advance the funds. And when the thing closes, I'll get that money out of escrow. So it could have cost the trust basically nothing. But he decided to put in the 80 grand and took too long. Don't do that, trustees. It's just simply not your job. If you have questions on this, if you have an issue like this, like let's say you are a beneficiary and you're just kind of waiting, what's happening with the house? Why is it not being sold? Who's paying the utilities? What if there's a lawsuit? What if somebody falls down on the lawn and breaks their neck and now there's a law? I mean, you just can't delay too long. You got to move at a reasonable pace. If he had sold the house, if he'd tried to get it going and tried to start selling it, 4 months after mom had passed away, then I think he would have been okay if it just took a long time to sell, but not when he held off for over a year and a half, just doing the upgrades and stuff like that. That was a bad idea. And he got surcharged. Okay. So if you're a beneficiary and this is happening, you got to do something about it. You may have to get an attorney to write the letter to say, hey, successor trustee, what are you doing? We want an accounting. We want to know what's going on. We are entitled to that legal accounting, and we want this legal accounting to be provided within, 60 days is what the legal requirement is. So that can all be done, but it needs to be done sooner rather than later. You just don't wait too long. You'll get in trouble. Okay. That's the case of the week. Next up, let's talk about a conservatorship. What is the deal with that? Actually, you know what would be even better? Let's tie it into another case of the week. Aha. Case of the week number 2. Case of the week number 2. All right. Here's what happened here. This is a conservatorship related issue. Okay. So the parents decided to use a life estate deed on the house rather than a trust. That's an actual thing. I mean, you could, and I am not recommending this. Okay. This is the caveat. I am not recommending this. It is a terrible idea. Frog in my throat. Okay. There is a thing in California called a life estate deed. And you can put on your house, you can say the house is owned by me and me and my husband or wife or whatever. And when I die, it goes to my 3 children. You can do a deed like that. You die, it goes to your 3 kids. It's called a life estate deed. They're legitimate. It's a way to do it. I never recommend it. And here's why. What happened is mom and dad did a life estate deed. And dad died. Okay. So now it's in just mom's name with a life estate deed. So when mom dies, the house goes to the kids. Mom became incapacitated, still the owner of the house. One of their kids took care of her and was nursing her, and they ran out of money. So they needed more money to take care of mom. They couldn't have her in the house anymore. She had to go to assisted living, more intensive type of care, and they needed the money. Okay. The house is in mom's name. She is not dead. The deed says when she's dead, the house goes to the kids. However, we have a deceased dad and now mom who's incapacitated. How do you sell the house? Great question. You have to go to court and get a conservator appointed over mom. Okay. So we didn't necessarily have to sell the house. You can get a conservator and try to convince the conservator or the court that it's a good idea to get like a reverse mortgage on the house rather than sell it. So you don't have the capital gains problem.
2 minutes.
So that was the problem, going to court and trying to first argue that we needed a reverse mortgage, which they're great. If it's needed under the circumstances, reverse mortgages can be a great way to pull equity out of a house to be able to take care of parents. But mom was the only one that was on the title. She's the only one that could sign the paperwork. She was incapacitated. So now you go to court to get a conservatorship and ask the court for authority to allow a reverse mortgage. Good luck with that because the lender probably won't do it. But you still need to get a conservatorship. And that right now, conservatorships will take between 4 and 6 months to get. They're a lot of work. You file a petition. There's a court-appointed investigator. There's a court-appointed attorney. You have your own attorney, spend all this money in attorney's fees. Eventually, you'll probably get a conservatorship over mom that will allow you to sell the house or somehow get money out of the equity in the house. And in the meantime, what's happening with mom? It's been 6 or 8 months and you don't have any money yet. So somebody's going to be fronting the money to take care of mom. What a mess. What would be a better idea? And I know what you guys are all thinking. Duh, Gary, that's pretty obvious. Don't use a life estate deed. Put the house in trust. If the house were in trust, then the trustee would have been able to either get a reverse mortgage or sell the house so there's enough money to take care of mom. Easy pleasy. Living trusts are awesome. They do their job. They cost a little bit of money. They take a little bit of time, but they are absolutely 100% worth it. I couldn't recommend them any higher. And also I couldn't recommend my law firm any higher than I do. It's GQ Law. We've been in business for over 30 years doing trusts and wills, trust administration. 855-500-TRUST is the number. 855-500-TRUST. I don't care whether you're newly married or you've been married for 50 years. You need a trust. 855-500-TRUST. Give us a call. Coming up next, more cases of the week.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com. Tell a friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth, with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
And now, continuing, more Gary Quackenbush, GQ Law cases of the week.
I know, right? Cases. We're just keeping going. I just think this is my world, and these are the things I run into, and I think this is pretty cool. So mom, okay, case of the week, another one. So mom set up a trust, and the trust says, when I die, my home located at 123 Road Street or whatever, it goes to my 6 kids, names all the 6 kids. So basically her trust says my house goes to my 6 children specifically. Not everybody does that. In fact, that's probably not a great idea. And why would that not be a good idea? Mom died. And the kids basically, they don't want to share the house. Mom's kind of idea was like, well, your dad and I own this house for 40 years, and we want you kids to all get along, and you can keep this as the family house because that's where we raised a lot of you. And it sounded like a great idea when whoever put together Mom's trust decided that they would put that in writing. And so this family home concept, when Mom died, the kids basically were looking at it like, I have my family home. I've established it. I'm living in an apartment in Kentucky. I'm living in a house in Utah. I'm living in a house in Arizona. So the kids were like all over the place. And one of the kids lived here in San Diego, which is where the house is located. So which kid do you think wants to keep it? So the kid that lives in San Diego says, I know, I'll just live there. Won't that be great? And we could all six have it as co-owners. Co-owners is very interesting. You can do a co-ownership agreement, joint property share agreement, there's sure, great. As long as all six of you agree how it's going to be maintained and who's going to put the new roof on, and should you do a fancy roof or just a regular roof, and should you re-stucco or should you just paint it? All these decisions that all six of the kids get to make while one of the kids is living there under some type of an agreement. Okay. Most kids, and I would say most because it's more than 99%. It's basically 3 times in my entire career, I've had kids that decided they wanted to own a house together for a million reasons. But one thing that happened in this is that the kids just said, we don't want to share the house. Okay. That's very typical. So one wanted to buy the others out. Okay. So now that the one child wants to buy the others out, it belongs to all 6 kids. That's the key. The trust specifically said my 6 kids get the house. That means we have to title the house in the name of the 6 kids. And if one of the children wants to buy the house, they get to buy it from the other 5. Okay. They have to get a loan, borrow money against their inheritance. They get credit for their own share, whatever. So in this case, the daughter is going to basically get credited with 1/6 of the value of the house, and she's going to have to get a loan for 5/6, which is totally possible. It's a little complicated because it has to be done while it's in the trust, and there's a lot of things going on. However, she's thinking in terms of, well, it's my mom's house. It's a family home. My mom's property taxes are like next to nothing. They're, $1,500 a year because they only paid, $100,000 for it. So she's thinking she's going to get that in property taxes. No, because the trust gave the house to all 6 kids. And the 6 kids, 5 of them are selling to their sister. It's a sale. The property taxes are going to be adjusted up to the fair market value of the price of the house, the value of the house at the date of death. However, 1/6 of it went from parent, mom, to child, the daughter that wants to buy the house, and that child wants to make it her principal residence. So that is the one time that the parent-child exclusion still works. From parent as principal residence to child who's going to keep it as a principal residence. If the child makes it a rental within 12 months, the property taxes go up. If they wait after the 12 months, right now, the way the law is, the property taxes stay down. Okay, so she got a 1/6 parent-child exclusion, which was helpful-ish, but that was one of the big calculations. So I think that's one of the biggest things. It's like, okay, and it's an actual sale. It's a transfer between the kids. It's kind of messy. Now, what would be the other way to do it? Well, let's say that mom just said, when I die, everything I own goes to my 6 children. And then she dies. Well, the trust is in the possession of the house. Technically, the trust is kind of like the owner. The trustee then says, I have a trust here, and I want to sell a house. Who wants to buy the house? Do I put it on the open market onto the multiple listing service and sell it to, the highest bidder? And then one of the kids says, I will be the highest bidder. I agree to pay X amount of money for this house. And all 6 kids gave the thumbs up and said, okay, we can do that. We'll allow our sister to buy it. So she buys the house from the trust. That's a totally different story, because then it's mom's house transfers to daughter's house. So you get a different property tax situation. So I just need think hard about family homes. I rarely see that they work. If there's more than one owner for that family home, then there's always going to be an issue of value, who's going to take care of it. And you're going to always have different opinions because we're all in different, points in our life. I mean, there's times in your life when you feel like maintaining the property and doing all kinds of wonderful things to make it good. And there are other times in your life where it's just like, I got too many soccer games. I don't want to take care of the house. Well, we're going to have different opinions because of our different lifestyles and where we are in life. Anyway, so solution to that, make sure there's a trust, and the trust does not specifically say that that house goes to the kids. All right. You want help with any of this type of stuff? I'd be happy to do your estate plan. Get them done. I just took on a case a couple of weeks ago, and literally it was like, there's no trust, there's no will. And I'm looking at it, we're in 2023 and somebody dies without a will or a trust. I don't get that. I don't understand that. If you're trying to save money by saying, I don't want to spend money on this, attorney, this lousy attorney, because he's going to take my money. Well, you're going to spend the money. Somebody's going to spend the money later. It's going to be your estate, because now it's going to have to go through probate. Trust, it's just the way to go. 855-500-TRUST. Let me help you get your estate plan together, and we will do a life plan. Okay. Which means it's not going to be a death plan where it just says, okay, when I die, do this. It's going to say, if I become incapacitated, do this. If my spouse and I are incapacitated, do this. If one of us dies and the other is incapacitated, do this. It gives those instructions and makes it so that the property can be protected even from your children's creditors, if that's a problem. So get your estate plan done right. But my law firm, GQ Law, would be happy to do it. If you want to find out more about us, we have this really cool website. It's gqlaw.com. So like great quality, gentleman's quarterly, general quarters, or Gary Quackenbush. It's actually Gary Quackenbush, gqlaw.com. I have a book there, and the book is called Living Trust Basics. It helps you understand in about 20 pages of text on how the estate planning living trust process works, so that you can understand and share. If you're going, my mom doesn't want to do a trust, then download the book, print it out, and say, here, Mom, this will help you understand why you need to get a trust. And also listen to Gary's show, and he will tell you why you need to trust. And I'm not doing this just to blow hot air because I like to hear myself in my headphones. I do this because we are, our motto for GQ Law, for my law firm, is essential legal services simply, affordably. Simply, affordably. And that's the key. If it's essential, it's going to be a will, a trust, healthcare power of attorney,
2 minutes,
health directive, financial power of attorney. All these things are the things that you're going to need, and that's what we're going to provide for you in our estate planning package. Okay. Also, a power of attorney. Now, power of attorneys are very interesting. I don't believe in general power of attorneys in most cases. Sometimes we do, but in most cases, I want to use limited power of attorneys, because the power of attorney is actually authorizing another individual to act as if they were you and give them access. If it's a general power of attorney, you're giving them access to all of your stuff, all your legal stuff, all of your money, everything. If it's a general power of attorney, some people think, oh, that's okay, I don't mind doing that. Really, don't give somebody a general power of attorney. Put your property in trust. You can put that person as the successor trustee when you're done, because you're incapacitated or dead, they can be the trustee, the successor. But don't give them general power of attorney. It's just not necessary if you have your stuff properly put in your living trust, which isn't hard. It just takes a little bit of work, and we do that. Okay. Now, you can use limited power of attorneys. That would be fine, but make sure it's not a general durable power of attorney. So I like to use limited ones for a specific purpose. And that way, you know exactly what's going to go on and what they're going to be able to do. Like the one I like is the power of attorney says that the power of attorney person, the assigned agent, has the ability and the authority to transfer money that is outside of the trust, and they have the ability to put it inside the trust. That's it. Money outside the trust moved into the trust, because there's a lot of that. When people die, they forget to move their bank accounts and stuff. The power of attorney can do it. during incapacity. So it's super helpful. So I like limited ones. That's my big thing. That's my faux pas, not my faux pas. That's just my pet peeve as your trust attorney. 855-500-TRUST. All right. Let's talk a little bit about things you can do with a trust. Some cool stuff coming up next here on the Word on Wealth.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
Gary, your team at GQ Law are experts at solving IRS and state tax problems. Talk about that.
When people have a tax problem, it tends to really stress them out. And one of the things we've been able to do is figure out how to resolve tax problems. One thing we might be doing is setting up a payment plan or getting a collection delay, maybe getting a determination that the person shouldn't have to pay the taxes at all. We do offers and compromise. We do audit reconsiderations. And one of the things that's a really powerful tool that some people don't recognize is sometimes bankruptcy can be used to actually eliminate taxes when there's certain conditions of the code that are met. So we can do all kinds of things. After we analyze your situation, we can figure out what's available, discuss your options, and figure out which ones to implement, what it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. And we can get people out from under all kinds of tax problems so they can sleep again. That's our goal.
Request your free initial consultation. gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com.
Not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500.
You're live.
All right. So good to have you along. This is going to be the finish up of our show. If you have questions for me, call 888-344-1170 and you can get on the show and ask me the questions that you want to ask. 888-344-1170 right here on the Word on Wealth. By the way, we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be Wednesday. We got Ken Pecos of the Pecos Group. He's our real estate expert. He is not a normal real estate guy. He knows so much about real estate. He's into market timing. He's into finance. He's into, how it works timing wise. He can pencil out numbers. He can do the math. It's really fun to listen to Ken's show. It's a very different experience. That's why I've invited him to be a partner with me on the show on Wednesdays. And he does a really great job. It's a lot of fun. In fact, we give you enough time to call in. He's on for the entire show. That'll be coming. That's on Wednesdays on the Word on Wealth. So Ken is a lot of fun. He'll tell us about some of the properties he has on the market. And it's fun because some of them are, a $200,000 property. And then some are like $20 million properties. And it's always interesting to figure out, do people really buy houses worth that much money? And it's very interesting that it just depends on your circumstances. If you have $500,000 available to you, through financing or whatever to buy a house, then He will recommend certain areas of town where you can get the better deals. If you have $1 million available to you with financing and all that stuff, he can recommend what are the better areas for that, not to be in some, by some anomaly in some weird neighborhood. But he's really good about that and helping people figure out, where to go, what to buy. Very good. So that's going to be Ken Pecos, and he is with us tomorrow. If you can't wait till tomorrow, you can give him a call on his phone, and his cell phone is 619-977-8419. One more time, 619-977-8419. All right. You'll have more of Ken tomorrow on the Word on Wealth. And tonight, I'm going to be on with Andrea Kay at 7:00 on the Andrea Kay Show. It's seriously, I know people are like, Gary, Andrea Kay invited you on her show. I know, because Noah hooked me up. Noah's a good guy. All right. Now, when a trust goes into probate, so we've been talking about, problems with estate planning, somebody uses a deed and those type of things. So what is this thing with probate? What happens? Why is probate an issue? Let's do a little background. Probate is a Latin-based word that means to prove. So when we go to probate court, we're doing three things. One, we're trying to prove who's in charge. Now, if you have a will, the will say who's in charge, and we're trying to prove that they are worthy to be the representative. If they have no will when they die, we're trying to prove that the person that's petitioning or asking to be the administrator, that they are worthy to be it. I'm using worthy kind of loosely, but that they should be the administrator. So number one is who's in charge. The second thing we're trying to show to the IRS, the probate court, trying to prove to them what is in the estate. Is there a house? Is there retirement accounts? Is there a car? Or all of the above? So that's proving what's in the estate. And number three is who gets it. Okay, who's in charge? What is there to distribute? And who gets it? That's what probate court is. Three things. It's a court of proving all those three things. It's a long process. You file a petition, you get an administrator appointed. That's going to take you a couple of months. Then you got a bunch of work to do. In about 4 months, you file another petition. That petition is for the final accounting. And once you get it filed, they're going to give you a hearing that's probably going to be 3 months away. And at that hearing, if everything goes well, you can get your closing order to make the distributions and hand out the money. So we're talking somewhere between 9 and 18 months to get a probate case through to where the beneficiaries get money, any money. And sometimes that's a little bit strung out for people. Like, we're selling a house in the meantime, we may have to get court authority. If there's any objection on the part of any of the beneficiaries, somebody shows up at court and says, hey, I don't think they should be the administrator. Well, then the court's not going to appoint them as administrator. The court's going to say, okay, come back in 60 days and let's talk about it. See if you guys can work it out. And it may be that you come back and you can't work it out. So they say, okay, I'm going to demand that you go to mediation. And so come back in 90 days and tell me how that went. So there's all these different mechanisms the court wants to do and use to try to get it so that people are not fighting over estate and wasting all the money. That's why it takes so much time. Even a super smooth one, it's 9 months because it's the waiting periods. So that's the thing with probate. That's why it works. Remember that we always have probate court jurisdiction. They're always available in whether you have a will or a trust or power of attorneys, anything to do with people who are dead or incapacitated, like guardianships, that's going to be under the probate court. It's the probate division of the Superior Court of California. So with probate, it's good. A lot of times we need to, use probate. And so that brings up the question, well, when does a trust go into probate? Because I've had people, we say, well, we're going to have to file a probate petition. They go, oh my gosh, the reason my dad had a trust is he wanted to avoid probate. And my answer is yes, that he probably did want to avoid probate. And I understand that, but we need something interpreted. We have somebody fighting us on the distribution, like who gets what. And so we want to go to the court and get a ruling or an understanding or an order from the court saying that's what this thing means. This language here means that the kids are going to split it 3 ways, or this language here says the kids are going to get it 3 ways after they're all 35, but then they have to do a certain behavior first. So it's going to be determined by the court. And the nice thing about a court is that's final. The court gives you an order that says this trust is now valid and the distributions are A, B, C, D, then it's final. It's not something, I mean, you can appeal it and all that legal stuff, but when the court gives an order, then everybody will obey it. The banks will obey it as far as opening and closing bank accounts, getting tax ID numbers, and doing all the administrative process and the accountings and all that. That can be done because you get court approval of the administrator. So we can do a lot of stuff with that. Okay. One tip for today is putting a bank account in a trust. Now, I always use the term, and I always say you put it in the trust. And it sounds like, well, what do? I got to take my piggy bank in and put it in something. Theoretically, that's what happens. What you do, like, let's say I have money at Chase Bank and I want to open an account and I want my money to be in my trust. When I open the account at Chase, I say, oh, by the way, this is going to be at a bank account in my family trust. And they're going to ask you for a copy of the trust so they can look at the paperwork and figure out exactly what's going on. So they will, they're good about it. They're going to help you set up set up the account, and then they can help you move your money from your personal account into the account in the name of the trust. But it's not that difficult. It takes time. You can't typically open them online. Although sometimes you can. I mean, Ally Bank lets you open accounts in the name of the trust online. Like there's some big companies that won't let you yet, like Goldman Sachs Markets account, which is a really cool savings account, but you can't put it in the trust. So that kind of bugs me. So some banks are really easy to put it in the trust, some are not, but they're not going to move anything. They're not going to move, they're not going to change. They're not going to change the title of something. They're not going to take your checking account that says Gary Quackenbush on it and now put Gary Quackenbush trustee. That's not, they open a new account in the name of the trust. When I went and got my financial advisor, I said, I have a trust, obviously. I hope I have one. I'm an attorney that does this for a living. But I want my investment account in my trust. And they opened a brand new account. We signed like 30 pages of documents because there's just a lot of documents with a trust with a financial agency. So then they opened up this account in the name of the trust, and then they moved my investment
2 minutes
from the Gary's name into the Gary Trust. So it was pretty painless on my part because my financial advisor was willing to do it. But that's how you put the money in the trust. That's how you avoid the probate. With bank accounts, I think you want them in the trust. Caveat, I want some money outside of the trust also. I want a bank account. I want a bank account that's got $5,000 in it that is joint with my daughter. Okay. Because if something happens to me and I'm incapacitated, my wife can take care of me, but my daughter has access to other money. When I die, if my wife is already dead, then I want money available to my kids to be able to hire the attorney to distribute my estate. So I'm going to leave money in a joint account. So most of my money is in my trust. Some of my money is in joint account. Some of my money is just outside the trust, but it's not enough to worry about. Once you have to, the number you have to worry about is if your money outside the trust or value of assets outside the trust exceeds $180,000, $180,000, that hits the probate jurisdiction. You want to be careful with that. Make sure you keep it under that. Make sure you put most everything you can in the trust. I just think that's really the way to go. It's the way to resolve it, is just put everything you've got in the trust. Car titles in the trust. I think that's the best way to go. You just work with the DMV, do the title transfer, get it so that your car's title in the name of the trust. That's the best way to go with that. All right. Get help from my office. I'm happy to talk to you, give you a free initial consultation, talk about your estate plan, review the one you've got, make sure everything's copacetic, but get an estate plan. Living trusts are really awesome. They are worth the money. They're worth the time. They're worth the peace of mind you get when everything is in order. 855-500-TRUST. You can come in. You can meet me, my awesome team. 855-500-TRUST. Come on in. Get your trust done. Get it done today. 855-500-TRUST. Talk to you tomorrow with Ken Pecos. And then Thursday's Anthony Wright with money. And Friday, we got Finding Joy Friday. We'll be back again tomorrow on The Word on Well.
Tell a friend about The Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future.
The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the views of Salem Media Group or its sponsors.